Welcome to the deep dive.
Good to be here.
Today we're examining a really concerning situation down at the Miami VA Medical Center.
Yeah, we are. It involves a Navy veteran, Kevin Caldwell. He identifies as a whistleblower.
Right, and he's alleging he's facing retaliation, specifically from the VAMC police.
That's the core of it. Retaliation, he claims, for being pretty outspoken about veteran access to health care.
Okay, so we're going to be looking closely at his side of the story.
Exactly. We've got his firsthand accounts, a formal complaint he filed very recently, a timeline he put together about these police interactions.
And some background, too, something about a settlement.
Yes. Information related to a disputed settlement offer from the VA previously, so quite a bit to unpack.
All right, so before we jump into the latest events, maybe some background on Mr. Caldwell as a whistleblower. What's he been trying to expose?
Well, he states he's worked to uncover alleged corruption, both within the DEA and the VA. Things like he mentions a narcotics bust at the Riviera Beach VAMC, claims about cooking the books in dental services, that kind of thing.
And he made an interesting comment, didn't he, about having outside insurance?
He did. He basically said his loudmouth, as he put it, was partly because he wasn't solely reliant on the VA for health care. Gave him some independence, you know.
That's a really important point. It shapes his perspective, allows him to maybe be more critical without fearing immediate loss of care.
Precisely. It might explain why he's, well, so assertive in pushing back and advocating.
Okay, so keeping that context in mind, let's talk about what happened yesterday, May 5th, 2025. But first, there was an earlier incident last year.
Yeah, May 2024, a parking incident that seems relevant, kind of sets the stage for the current tension.
What happened then?
So Mr. Caldwell says he was stopped in the VAMC parking lot by an Officer Pazlushkin, VAMC police.
Right.
And the issue was identification.
His ID?
Right. He showed his real ID card, which, importantly, is marked veteran.
Seems straightforward enough.
You'd think. But apparently, the officer insisted he needed a VA-issued V card, not the real ID.
So a dispute right there over what's valid ID at the facility.
Exactly. And Caldwell says he complied, but also, voiced some concern about the officer's attitude, felt it wasn't very welcoming.
And that went over well.
Apparently not. He alleges it just made the officer's demeanor worse. So, right after that, Caldwell goes inside.
To do what?
To file a complaint. Straight to the patient advocate's office. The person meant to help vets with issues.
Okay, standard procedure if you have a problem.
Yes, but here's where it gets here. Well, concerning, especially thinking about retaliation.
How so?
A letter, written the next day on Caldwell's behalf, claims that within just 15 minutes of him filing that complaint.
15 minutes? That's incredibly fast.
Right. The letter alleges Officer Pavlushkin located Caldwell inside the facility, tracked him down using cameras and other VA police in the hallways to confront him about the complaint he just filed.
Wow. That definitely sounds like potential intimidation. Confronting someone immediately after they complain.
It raises serious questions, yeah. The letter also mentions the whole parking lot thing was recorded on video, posted to social media.
Okay. And this letter, it had some strong language.
Very strong. It's from someone named Ona M. Hop. It talks about an alleged playbook.
A playbook?
Yeah, targeting, quote, red flag and disruptive behavior veterans. Suggesting this playbook has been used to get people terminated before, and it demands Officer Pavlushkin be fired immediately.
Whoa! A playbook to target certain veterans? That's a heavy accusation.
It is. If true, it suggests something potentially systemic, a way to sideline critical voices.
And the letter mentioned legal action.
It did. Warned of a potentially long and expensive legal fight if they weren't satisfied. Shows how seriously they're taking these claims.
So this 2024 incident, combined with his whistleblower history, it paints a picture.
It does. It adds weight to his broader claims of retaliation. This wasn't just a one-off parking issue, potentially.
And he does claim other forms of retaliation, right? Beyond this specific incident.
Oh, yeah. He talks about a pattern, like that retracted $50,000 settlement offer we mentioned earlier.
Which was supposedly related to whistleblower retaliation.
That's the claim. And there was apparently an agreement for the VA to cover his outside health insurance, too, related to that.
What else does he allege?
Some pretty serious stuff being followed, not just in Florida, but elsewhere. Hacking.
Hacking. Like his computer.
His Apple ID, social media accounts. He even makes the very serious claim that law enforcement somehow got control of his Facebook page at one point.
That's extreme, if true. A significant overreach.
Absolutely. And he seems to believe the VA maybe even Congress, are targeting veterans online more broadly.
So alongside these direct retaliation claims, there's the whole issue of his healthcare access, which seems to be a constant struggle for him.
Yes, and this is critical. He's 100% VA disability rated, which usually means significant service connection and entitlement to comprehensive VA care.
But he's having trouble getting it.
Big trouble. Based on his account, he gives this example. A 6-month delay just to get a urology community care consult resubmitted.
Community care, that's when the VA sends you outside the system, right? Because
I
they
know.
can't provide the care.
Exactly. And the reason for the delay, he says the VA admitted they hadn't had internal availability for that specialty for 4 years.
4 years without internal urology capacity, that's staggering.
It is. And a 6-month delay just to get the referral processed again.
So did he eventually get the community care appointment?
He did, after waiting another 7 months for the actual appointment with the outside doctor.
Okay, so finally he sees the specialist.
Right. Gets a prescription from this outside specialist, and then the VA reportedly refused to approve the medication.
Like, refused the medication prescribed by the community care doctor they sent him to.
That's what he alleges,
Yeah.
it seems. Counterintuitive, right?
It's-
Undermines the point of sending him out in the first place.
It really does. It suggests a major disconnect.
And he also mentioned problems with how community care gets paid for, potential billing issues, maybe unexpected costs for the veteran.
Which brings us back to him paying for his own insurance, despite the 100% rating.
Exactly. He's clearly frustrated, feeling like he has to pay for outside insurance just to navigate around these VA access problems.
Okay, so that's the backdrop. Alleged retaliation, whistleblower status, major healthcare access hurdles. Now, let's get to yesterday, May 5th, 2025.
Right. He had a primary care appointment scheduled, face-to-face.
Which he didn't want to do.
Preferred not to, yeah. Given his history and whistleblower status, he wanted to avoid the facility. But he says the appointment was necessary to keep getting his medications.
Okay, so he felt he had to go.
Seems so. And while there, he also tried to get a walk-in dermatology appointment, another specialty he's apparently having trouble accessing.
So he arrives at the VAMC. Any issues getting in?
Immediately. Parking, again. He got into the front lot, okay, using his real lead marked veteran. But it was full, so he drove around to the west side entrance, and there he gets stopped by a different police officer.
And let me guess, ID problems again.
You guessed it. This officer also questioned his real ID. Made some comment, apparently, about how often people falsely claim to be veterans.
Even though Caldwell worked there for 15 years, and his ID says veteran.
Right, the exact same issue as the 2024 incident, but with a different officer. It starts to feel like maybe a pattern or specific instructions, perhaps.
It certainly raises that question. So how did Caldwell react this time?
Understandably frustrated, he went to the VA police station inside the facility to file a complaint about this officer.
And could he?
No. He says he was told they were short-staffed, no one available to take his report right then.
So, blocked again. What next?
He goes to the patient advocate again, Nadine, and also the chief of staff's office.
To report the ID issue.
That and the ongoing problems accessing dermatology. Still no community care option. Apparently no list of providers he could use, just trying to get answers, navigate the system.
Despite all these roadblocks.
Yeah. Then he goes to his actual primary care appointment.
How did that go?
He mentioned his frustrations there too, but interestingly, he said the actual medical staff, the doctor, were respectful during the appointment itself.
Okay, so not everyone was hostile?
No, but then he ran into more issues with clerks. Tried to get paperwork processed for free glasses based on an outside eye exam, no help there. Then another negative interaction with clerks in the echocardiogram department.
Sounds like a really mixed bag, almost like running a gauntlet.
A very stressful day, it seems. And it culminated in a major confrontation.
What happened?
He's walking back towards the patient advocate's office, notices more police around than usual, and then he sees him.
Sees who?
The same officer from the West Side Gate, the one who just challenged his real ID.
Oh boy. Okay.
Caldwell tries to explain the real ID situation again, maybe clear things up.
And the officer?
Allegedly told him to get out of my face. Adopted what Caldwell felt was a threatening stance.
Not de-escalating things then?
Not at all. Caldwell felt things were escalating fast. Given everything else, he pulled out his phone and started recording.
Smart move, probably.
Then, more police arrive. The chief investigator, a lieutenant.
Okay, command staff showing up.
Caldwell starts talking to the lieutenant. The first officer moves away for a bit,
Yeah.
but then comes back down the hallway.
Towards Caldwell.
Yeah, Caldwell said he felt cornered. His patient advocate was nearby, but he felt wasn't stepping in. and he says it triggered his PTSD.
That's awful. In a VA facility where he's supposed to get care?
He describes being aggressively handcuffed, personal items taken, wallet, phone, keys, put in a jail cell inside the VA.
They have jail cells in the VA.
Apparently a holding cell at the VA police station, and he alleges the intimidation continued in the cell.
Like what?
The officer making comments about his concealed weapon license after seeing it in his wallet. Even taking his wallet, counting his money out loud.
Yeah.
Feels like bullying behavior.
Definitely sounds like it. What was he charged with?
Issued a citation for disorderly conduct.
Disorderly conduct. After all that.
Before they released him, he asked to speak to Nadine, the patient advocate.
And did he?
Yes. And what she reportedly told him is pretty shocking.
What did she say?
That the police stopped her from interviewing witnesses to the incident, and that she'd been told to stand down by police in similar situations before.
Told to stand down by the police. That completely undermines her role as an advocate, doesn't it?
It absolutely raises questions about the patient advocate's independence and ability to actually advocate for vets if the police can override them.
Caldwell also mentioned something about wanting to avoid in-person appointments.
Yeah, he stressed again that he's been asking for 4 years to not have face-to-face appointments because of these kinds of issues and the distress it causes.
4 years? That's a long time to feel unsafe seeking care.
And he suspects his car might have been searched while he was detained. No proof, but a suspicion.
So, what happened after he was released with the citation?
He actually went back into the facility.
Really?
To request meetings with the acting chief, the VA attorney, the director, the chief patient advocate. Told them he now had legal representation.
So escalating it formally, letting them know he's serious.
Exactly. But even then, there was more drama.
What now?
He gets a call later from the patient advocate, Nadine. She tells him to wait for her somewhere. But while he's waiting, the lead police officer apparently approaches him and threatens another citation if he doesn't leave immediately.
While he's waiting for the patient advocate he was told to wait for. That's contradictory and sounds intimidating.
Creates more confusion, more pressure. Caldwell's final statement on this whole thing was that he feels he's been detained, arrested, or intimidated by the police at the VA for years. Says he feels followed like a hunted dog inside the hospital.
Wow. Okay, so let's try to pull this together as we wrap up this deep dive. What we have is, it's a really disturbing picture.
It is. You've got a Navy vet, a documented whistleblower, alleging a clear pattern of retaliation from VAMC police.
Retaliation directly linked, he believes, to him speaking out about problems with veterans' healthcare access.
Right. And his own story dramatically illustrates those very access problems. Huge delays, denied medications, trouble with community care, despite being 100% disabled.
The central tension seems to be this clash, doesn't it? Between protecting whistleblowers who are trying to ensure accountability.
And how the system, or at least elements within it, like the police in this instance, respond to being criticized or investigated.
The events he describes, especially the recent arrest and the alleged police conduct, raise really serious questions about the environment inside that VA. Is it safe for veterans who complain?
If these allegations hold up, it points to a significant failure, a failure in the VA's core mission to care for veterans, especially those highlighting problems.
It really pushes you, the listener, to think about the bigger picture here. You know, what systemic issues could even allow situations like this to develop?
Yeah. What factors contribute to these kinds of claims? Retaliation, denial of care. It likely isn't just one individual officer or clerk.
And crucially, what needs to change? What measures could actually ensure accountability and make VA facilities genuinely safe, supportive places for every veteran, especially those brave enough to point out flaws?
That's the key question, isn't it? It has huge implications for all veterans relying on the VA, makes you think hard about oversight, transparency, and what true veteran care should look like.